Welcome to The Answers. And I am so glad that you are here. I say this every single time because the podcast is growing. It's growing so fast. We are in so many countries and now it's spreading so much word to word and mouth to mouth. And that makes my heart so warm because together, energetically, we are love and light. We can stick together, grow together, get insights together. So I am really, really so grateful for all of you listening to these podcasts. Before we start, I want you now to notice how you are feeling right now in this exact moment, because today's episode is for the version of you that has wondered maybe more than once whether love is actually going to happen for you or whether it is happening for everyone else while you keep watching from the outside. If you ever have scrolled past another engagement announcement and felt that small drop in your stomach, you know what I'm talking about, this pinch in your stomach, right? If you have ever laid awake thinking about how long it has been since someone really, really saw you, if you have ever said, I am fine being single out loud while something underneath you didn't quite believe it, right? This episode is for you if you have ever felt any of this. And I want you to know, before we go even one sentence further, that what you are about to hear is not another list of reasons why you haven't found love yet, because you have heard those like so many times. So enough of those. Take a deep breath, get settled, and let's go together now into this episode. Let's dive deep. So let's start with the belief itself, because love feels out of reach. It is not actually a fact about your life. It is a sentence, and sentence can be examined, right? We can take that out. It can be exited. Once you examine this particular sentence closely, you notice something important, which is that it's really about the actual availability of love in the world, and almost always about a story you have been telling yourself about your own worthiness of receiving it. Here is what I mean. When you say love feels out of reach, what you often actually mean underneath those words is that you have had enough disappointments, enough people who chose someone else or chose to leave. That your nervous system has started treating the absence of love as evidence, proof, as data, confirming something you already suspected about yourself long before any of those people showed up. And that's the part I really want you to hear today. The disappointments didn't create the belief. They confirmed a belief that was already running in the background. This matters because it means that the work was never actually about finding the right person. The work is about examining what you have been unconsciously proving to yourself every time love doesn't show up the way you hoped. Because if you believe, even somewhere you never say it out loud, that you are somehow too much or not enough or too less, too guarded or too needed, too late or too damaged, then you will find endless of evidence for that belief. Not because it is true, but because that's what belief you have. And you will now go looking for their own reflection everywhere you look, right? And here is the part that might actually change something for you today. Because love is not out of reach the way a mountain peak is out of reach, meaning distant, but eventually climbable if you just try hard enough. No, love is closer than that. Love is available right now in the way you treat yourself, the way you show up for your own life, in the way you let people in instead of auditioning them for a reason to keep them out. I know that might sound like a small reframe, but it changes everything because it moves the entire question now from will someone choose me to am I willing to be truly seen? And those are two completely different questions with two completely different outcomes. Let's get practical for a moment because the insight without action just becomes another thing that you understand, but you cannot apply, right? And I don't want that for you today. I want you to really apply this in action. The first thing I want you to notice is the difference between genuinely being open to love and performing openness while your actual behavior is built like a fortress. So many of my clients tell me that they are ready, they are open, they want this. And then when we look at their actual patterns, they cancel dates the moment things starts to feel real. They date people who are clearly unavailable because unavailability feels safer than being fully seen. And that's possibly rejected anyway, right? When you think that you can be rejected, you choose now unavailable people, or they keep an exit strategy running in the back of their mind every single time they go on a date, just in case. Can you relate to this? All of this is understandable. Your nervous system is trying to protect you, but protection and connection cannot fully coexist in the same moment. You eventually have to choose which one you want more. So, do you want to be in the connection or do you want to be in the protection? I want to name a few specific patterns here because I know some of you are living inside one of them right now. Maybe you never get a second date. The first one always feels fine, even good, and then nothing. And you are left wondering, what did I do wrong? Maybe it's the opposite. People get too close and then they leave over and over to the point where you start to expecting the ending before the relationship has even ever begun. Maybe you cannot find anyone interested in you at all, and that feels completely dry. And every month that passes makes the story feel more true. Or maybe the hardest version of them all. You find someone, you feel it, you feel this real interest, real chemistry, and then they don't feel it back. And you are left holding something that only you were carrying. And here is what I want you to understand about all four of those experiences. They are not proof of your worth or your lovability. They are information. They are showing you something about the pattern you keep walking into. And the question is never, why does this keep happening to me? The question is, what am I bringing into the room energetically and behaviorally that keeps producing the same results over and over? Because when the same ending shows up again and again with different people, the common denominator is worth looking at honesty, not with shame, but with real curiosity. What is happening here? I want to ask you something now, and I really want you to sit with it instead of answering too fast. Are you ready to hold love? Not to attract it, not to manifest it, not to find it, to hold it. Once it actually is in your hands and in your heart and in your soul, can you hold it? Because here is a question I get constantly. Do we need to be fully healed before love can come in? And my answer is always no. Absolutely not. Healing is not something that you need to have like a thing to do before love. Love does not wait at the finish line for the perfectly recovered person or version of you. But healed and ready are not the same thing. And this is where I want you to really pay attention. Did you hear what I said? Healed and ready is not the same thing. You do not need to be healed to be ready. You need to be willing to choose it, to stay when it gets uncomfortable, to invest before you have a guarantee, to keep showing up on the days it would be easier to retreat. Readiness is not a feeling that arrives on its own one day. No, readiness is a decision. And it's the one that you make right now, exactly as you are. So let's make this real. Here is a short checklist, and I want you to actually go through it honestly, not the version of yourself that you wish were true, but the actually truth. Are you ready now to hold love? Can you stay in the room when someone gets close instead of finding a reason to create distance? Can you tolerate being fully seen, flaws and all, without shutting down or performing a better version of yourself? Are you willing to invest in someone before you have proof that it will work out? Can you receive care without immediately trying to earn or repay it? Are you willing to stay through an uncomfortable conversation instead of exiting it at the first sign of friction? Can you tell the truth about what you want instead of waiting for the other person to guess it? Are you willing to be disappointed again and try anyway? If you read through that list and felt a few uncomfortable yeses or a few honest no's, that's good, all right? That is not a failure, that's information. And now you actually know where the real work is instead of guessing. Now, I want you to flip this around because there is another kind of checklist I see all the time, and it's worth naming also, honestly, it is. Some of you are not struggling with readiness at all. You are struggling with a different list, entirely, totally different list. And it's built out of height, looks, income, status, the right job title, the right zip code, whether they fit into the family dinner or not, whether they impress your friends, whether they check the boxes, the culture around you has quietly now convinced this is what matters most. I am not going to tell your standards doesn't matter because they do. You should have standards. So you are allowed to want things. You are allowed to have real preferences. But I want you to ask yourself something important. Is this list coming from your heart? From something that you actually knows what a real connection feels like? Or is it coming from fear of what other people think or will think of you choosing someone who doesn't fit the picture you were taught to want? So if they don't fit into your pack, what happens now? If you're choosing from your heart, then you can have your standards. Because a list built now entirely from the outside, from status, from image, from what looks good, will never once tell you whether someone actually makes you feel safe, seen, or chosen. Only your heart can tell you that. Only your soul can recognize that. The real question is not height or a job title or a zip code. Of course, you can have standards on lifestyle. Of course you can, but I want you to reflect so that the real question for you is whether this person meets you or not. Yeah? So, do I feel more myself around them or less? Because I'll build entirely from the outside, from status, from image, from what looks good, will never once tell you whether someone actually makes you feel safe and seen and chosen. Only your heart can tell you that. Only your soul can recognize that. But yes, I am totally pro standards. I just want it to come from your heart, no matter what the standards are, not from the pack, not from society, not from anything, just from your heart, from lifestyle, values, needs, boundaries, etc. Okay? So the real question now is not the zip code. The real question is, does this person meet me? Do I feel more like myself around them, not less? And am I willing to let that answer matter more than the list I was handed to by everyone else? This is the point I'm making here. And I want to be clear about something here, because choosing from the heart does not mean abandoning your boundaries or your needs. All right, because sometimes attachment style, nervous system can go into the heart, but choosing from the heart is never the same as abandoning your boundaries and your needs. You need to stick with them. Boundaries are not the same thing as a list of status or looks. Boundaries are the little things that keep you safe, respected, and whole inside of the relationship. Things like being spoken to with kindness, being treated as a priority, having your no be respected, having your time and your energy honored. Your needs matters too. Emotional safety matters. Consistency matters. Feeling wanted matters. And none of that makes you needy or high maintenance. It makes you someone who knows what real connection looks like and requires. The difference is so simple. A checklist built on status asks the world to prove you are worthy or being seen. A boundary asks a person to prove they are capable of truly loving you. And one comes from fear and the other one comes from self-respect. And only one of them will actually protect the relationship you are trying to build. Beautiful, beautiful soul. To tell you now about a client, I will call her Sarah, who came to me convinced that love was simply not in her cards. She had what felt like an airtight case. She has been on hundreds of dates over the years. She had 2 long relationships that ended in ways that left her genuinely blindsided. And by the time she found me, she had built up an entire identity around being someone who was independent, successful, not needing anyone, like totally masculine energy, which sounded empowering on the surface, of course. But underneath, it was actually a very sophisticated form of self-protection. What we discovered together now, slowly over weeks, we did like really deep shadow work, like really honest, deep work in her soul and in her pattern. What was going on here? And in that work, we found out that Sarah has never actually let anyone get close enough to disappoint her in a real way. She was choosing unavailable people without even realizing it. She was ending things right around the point where real intimacy would have started. And you know what I say about intimacy: into me you see. If that feels scary, you pull away and you always choose unavailable people like Sarah did. She walked away with more proof for the belief she came in with. Love is not out of reach for other people. It is just not available for her, for me. I want you now to notice how convincing that story became, because it had years of evidence behind it. Evidence she had unknowingly helped create. She pushed herself and she moved and navigated to the unavailability so that she could have even more proof. And now this was her belief, right? This shift now, the beautiful, beautiful shift for Sarah, did not come from meeting someone new. No, it came before that. It came from a moment in a session with me when she finally said out loud for the first time in her adult life that she was terrified of being fully known and then still not being enough. And this is something I see all the time, but that is a false belief. You do not have to perform to be loved. You can be in your being. Now, the second that sentence left her mouth, something in her actually softened, because the belief had been running silently for so long that just naming it out loud took away some of its power. And it is powerful to speak it out loud. That is what we also do in the sessions. My job as a coach is, of course, to see what you cannot see. And then we work with that fear, because that fear is born somewhere. It has an identity somewhere, someone else's identity, not yours, in the now. That was the past, okay? From that place, something happened now, the shift here. Not from a place of desperately searching harder. No, she started now to date differently. She started staying in the room emotionally instead of exiting the moment things got real. She actually stayed. So again, the question, can you hold love? Can you stay in the moment? Can you stay? Now, Sarah's story here. About 8-9 months later, she met someone actually. Not because she found the right person by searching harder, but because she had finally become someone capable of actually letting the right people in. So now she's in a beautiful relationship. You see what's happening here. As soon as you can hold love, as soon as you do not work from lack and fear, the soft shifts will happen. The soft shifts will happen. Not that you need to cross your boundary in needs. You just need to soften your heart, and you need to be in the now and not in the past. So the thing that there is no love for you, that is a false believe there is absolutely love in reach for you, but you need to start within yourself. We always start within ourselves. We never force. We never come from lack. We never come from the inner prison or false beliefs from the past, right? But so many of you are living still in the past, seeking proof from the past. But we are now in the now. Let go. Let go. Heal. Heal and be, so you can embrace the love. So let's go to the spiritual part. You were not born believing love was out of reach. That belief was installed moment by moment, disappointment by disappointment, and somewhere along the way, you made an unconscious agreement that closest equals danger. All right? That agreement has been running your entire love life, choosing your partners for you, ending things before you could really begin, keeping you comfortable, starved instead of dangerously fed. Because starved at least feels familiar, and familiar to the part of you that is trying to keep you safe will always feel safer than something new, right? Even when that new thing is exactly what you actually want, you will be pulled to the familiar thing and you will be in the toxic patterns, the old patterns, not in the now. So here is the truth now that maybe you and most people never get told directly. Love was never something you had to become worthy of. Worthiness was never the missing ingredient. You already have it right now in this exact moment, exactly as you are. What is actually missing is your willingness to stop performing readiness and start practicing presence. Because love does not require you to be healed first. Love actually happens in the presence of your unhealed part too, as long as you are willing to let someone witness them instead of hiding them behind a version of yourself you think is easier to love. Put the mask off. I also want to talk about vibration for a moment because this word gets used loosely sometimes. But what it actually means is very simple. Now, you attract and you meet people at the level of your own internal state, not your appearance, not your resume, your internal state. So if you keep getting the same ending, the second date never comes, the person who always leaves, the silence when you finally do like someone, the interest that only ever flows in one direction, the repetition is not bad luck, it's a mirror. The work is to stop asking love, to change the outcome and start asking what part of you keeps producing it. This is what some traditions call soul correction. The idea that the pattern which hurt you the most in this life are often the exact ones you came here to face and to finally heal. Not punishment, not a flaw, as a curriculum. Every disappointment ending in simply pointing you back toward the lesson until you finally is willing to learn and heal it from the inside instead of the outside, inside and out and not outside and in. So now, instead of asking why this keeps happening to you, I want you to ask a much, much braver question. What is being shown to me here? What am I still protecting? Still proving, still afraid of? Because the moment you stop treating the pattern as something that happens to you and start treating it as something that is reflecting you, the pattern finally has a room to change now. Because you're no longer fighting the mirror, you are finally listening to it. So believe me, there is so much love out there ready for you when you are ready for the love. You just need to open your eyes and you need to just heal your wounds. I promise you that. So here is what I actually wanted to do with today's episode. Not just to feel it, but to do. Pick one thing from the checklist that we went through, one honest no. And this week now, practice the opposite of it on purpose in a real interaction. If you exit when things get real, stay in one conversation longer than usual, you know. If you never say what you actually want, Say it once out loud to one person. Then take 5 minutes now and write down your list, the real one, the one built on status, looks, height, image, and next to it now, write down what you actually need: safety, honesty, consistency, respect. And now look at both sides in this list and notice which one you have been leading with. That's the work, not someday now. I want you to do it this week. Start with this. And before we close, I want you to hear this clearly. Love is out there. It is not a myth. It is not reserved for other people. It is real and it's closer than you think. Your heart is not closed. It never was. It is just protecting yourself, protecting itself. And that is a huge difference. All right. Being protected and being closed is a huge difference. Never forget. There are so many people in this world, so much love available, more than you can ever run out of. And the work was never about finding it. It was about learning to choose it again and again on purpose. Now, before I let you go in this episode, I want to leave you with 8 affirmations, and you all know I love the affirmations. So stay with me, take a deep breath, and we do some affirmations. Repeat after me. I am already worthy of the love I have been searching for. Love is not out of reach. I am simply learning to receive it. I no longer need to protect myself from being truly seen. I release the belief that closeness equals danger. I am allowed to let people in even before I feel ready. My past does not determine what is possible for me now, in the now. I choose presence over protection, starting today. I am safe to be fully known and fully loved. Thank you for being with me in this episode. And if you want to contact me, you can do so on my email, info@JanetteWinberg.se, or all over social media with my name, Janette Winberg. So until next week, Wednesday, when I release the next episode, stay true to yourself, take care of yourself, and with lots of love from me to you.